Here are three of the most overquoted and overused verses of Torah that I hear far too many times. And let me tell you, you will scarcely catch me ever quoting one of these verses, even though I would imagine around the world today, one of them is going to be quoted all throughout synagogues because it's a part of our parsha this week. I'll get to that one last. Verse number 1 that is overly quoted over and over again, and I try to stay away from it because it is so misinterpreted and bannered, and it's a little bit thin. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. 3 words. Love, it's 3 Hebrew words, many more English words. Love your neighbor as yourself. And we say, oh, this is the golden mean, this is the golden rule, this is what Judaism is about. And yeah, that's kind of like the bare minimum of what we should do, loving each other as ourselves. But really, who is your neighbor? And I would actually say that Leviticus 19:18, love your neighbor as yourself, is not nearly as important as Leviticus 19:34, which is love the stranger. Yeah. And so we overquote this line. We think that's what Judaism is all about. If we can just love your neighbor as yourself, and by the way, they say this in schools too, we want to treat others as you want to be treated. That is a core value. It's a good value, but it's not crying out Jewish values to the extreme. Good to do, but we don't need to talk about it as the basis for everything that we do. By the way, in the Talmud, there is a discussion between Rabbi Akiva and a rabbi named Ben Azai. And Rabbi Akiva gets asked, what's the most important line of Torah? Going back to that line of Torah that we mentioned before, love your neighbor as yourself. That's what Rabbi Akiva says. Ben Azai says something different. Ben Azai says it's not love your neighbor as yourself. He says it's from Genesis 2. Eila toldot b'nei Adam. These are the generations of humanity. And you're like, man, that is not quotable at all. Why didn't he actually just use Micah, who says very clearly, each and every one of us come from the same ancestor? After all, that's what Ben Azai meant by that. Ben Azai wants us to lean in more deeply to the text so that you can study it and unpack it and begin to understand it, and not just quote a couple words as if they are the be-all, end-all of the Jewish experience. So he gives you bland words and says the most important words of Torah are these bland words that you can't understand out of context, but you have to delve in much deeper. Because, of course, Judaism is beyond the slogans. It's beyond the one-liners. And far too often, I think, we have embraced a Judaism of great one-liners that don't say all that much. Verse number 2 that gets overquoted and overused far too often is from Genesis, from the first chapter of Genesis. It's the idea that we are all created b'tselem Elohim, in God's image, which is really a beautiful concept, the fact that we are created in God's image. And it's used to say that each and every one of us deserve to honor one another because honoring another is like honoring God, since we are all created in God's image. And despite whatever differences we might have, we're all created in God's image after all. Even those people who we dislike, even those who are different from us, we are all b'tselem Elohim. It's all good, and it's a radical inclusionary equality kind of thing. Which leads me to the number 1 most overquoted verse of Torah that gets taken out of context and used to justify anybody's purpose, especially justice purposes. And that is, you guys already know it. Tzedek, tzedek tirdof, justice, justice shall you pursue. It's used as a guideline for helping to establish and appoint justice and judiciaries in the Israelite judicial system while they come to the land of Israel. But if you go to any rally, any justice rally, social justice rally for any cause, be it the environment, be it for gun control, be it for whatever you want, whatever Jewish cause or wherever there's Jews who are rallying for a cause, it is always and without a doubt that slogan that appears over and over again. Tzedek, tzedek, tirdov. Justice, justice shall you pursue. And it's not that it's not important, because it is important. It's simply just not exactly what the verse is telling us. I mean, there's a lot of great commentaries which unpack this even more. Michael went through some of them earlier in our morning minyan on Thursday. You should have been there and would have gotten to hear him. He talked a little bit about the Kutzker Rebbe and what the Kutzker Rebbe said. He said, you cannot pursue justice through injustice. Essentially, you must pursue justice through just means. The ends do not justify the means. You actually have to pursue justice through ways that are consistent with your values. Rashi is going to talk about the impartiality of justice. Justice for you and justice for you have to be completely equal, and that's why it's repeated twice. Justice for the poor and justice for the rich need to look exactly the same, and impartiality needs to reign. And other commentaries simply say, justice twice is just an emphasis. Yes, you really need justice. And my issue is not with the verse. My issue is with the overusage of the verse, because 3 words in the Torah, no matter what 3 words they are or whenever they are used, cannot help you dig deeply into Judaism in any kind of meaningful way. That's thin Judaism, or that's slogan Judaism, where 3 words try to capture the Jewish experience. Let me tell you something I hear far too often these days. Someone begins what they're about to say to me, which I automatically know is going to be a confrontational statement, when they use a couple words. As a Jew, and you know whatever's coming next is going to be like, Rabbi, your experience is wrong, because as a Jew, I believe tzedek, tzedek, tirdov. And I really try hard not to roll my eyes whenever I hear that. But what is coming is something to say that I know 3 words of Judaism that mean everything. And 3 words of Judaism cannot possibly, they mean something, but they cannot be the be-all and end-all, and that is thin Judaism. Rabbi, I take my position because ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, you've got to love your neighbor as yourself, and that's what I believe, and I believe that too. But I actually know much more of Torah, and I use the full range of Torah in order to make a point. So that's why I don't use those 3 verses. They're far too easy, they're far too simple, and they're far too slogany in order to really delve deeper into the Jewish experience. Because Judaism is about nuance, Judaism is about tension, and Judaism is about embracing the argument. I like difficult texts, not texts that sound nice. Judaism is not meant to be about slogans. It's, by the way, often some of the most crucial words in the Torah are difficult to understand, and for an intentional reason. So you would think that the very first words of Torah should be really powerful and really easy to understand and make a positive statement. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. My first question is, what's this word Bereshit mean? And you're going to be like, oh, it means in the beginning. What kind of means that? When God began to create, or with beginning God created. It doesn't have an easy, quotable nature, because it is meant to be unpacked, and it's meant to be interpreted, and it's meant to be wrestled with. That is the Jewish experience. Can we have a thicker Judaism? Can you actually, when you want to make an argument, find a text that no one has ever heard of? Or perhaps even a text that needs to be studied with people. Like last week, I could have said in my Torah study, we're going to study this week this text that says, you must surely open up your hand to the poor. Great quotable text. There will always be needy in the land. But that's not what we did in our Torah study. If you were there, you know that what we did is we looked at a couple verses before that said, there will never be needy in your land. And then a couple verses later, it said, there will always and perpetually be needy in the land. And the conversation is about how we reconcile the two, how both are right, how there's always tension that exists between working towards an ideal and the reality and the pragmatic situation in which we have the responsibility to feed the poor around us. No slogans, wrestling. No slogans, debate. No slogans, tension and difficult text. If you want to really catch my attention, don't give me a quotable slogan of Judaism. Give me a text that I need to think about and unpack. Not an easy challenge. And some of you are like, I'm going home. I'm going to go find a religion that is just filled with nice quotes. And I would say they make quote books. Great quotes based on any topic. And you can open up a great quote book and you can say, I'm going to put this quote on my wall. Can your Torah inform your life and not having your politics inform your Torah? It's a tough challenge. Can you pick up a text that is not a slogan, lean into it, study, unpack, debate, and wrestle?